N'Keal Harry was an absolute steal at 32. What are you guys talking about? Forget Tom Brady's passing numbers. He's the GOAT because he was the best punter in the NFL. I take Johnny Hekker over Patrick Mahomes to be my quarterback any day.
Welcome to the No Punt Intended Sportscast with your host, Parody07.
Welcome back to the No Punt Intended Sportscast. I'm your host, Guy, and I'm back with, as always, the dogs. And we finally have a week of football where clutch made a difference. I mean, there were so many really close games this week, and it was really nice for the NFL viewer to have teams to root for till the very end. Unless you were watching Patriots Colts, until you were rooting for them to finish the game so that they could move on with their Sundays. So it's just, we got dumpster fires all over the place. We've got coaches already being talked about being fired. Obviously, Bill Belichick is on the chopping block, according to the average Patriots fan. You got Matt Eberflus, who, unsurprisingly, is not good enough to fill in Matt Nagy's shoes and is potentially being shipped out of town, according to reports. And not very many people, including myself, unless it's D'Amico Ryan, which it might be, can name the Texans head coach. But that Texans head coach is a very happy camper. Definitely an amalgamation of interesting games. Very few of them went according to plan. Let's put it that way. I mean, nobody thought that the 49ers would lose to the Jaguars, but they didn't think they were going to blow them out. Yeah. I don't think very many people had the Browns winning this week. I don't think many people had the Vikings beating the Saints with Josh Dobbs and that sort of thing. Cardinals did the New England a favor and won a game as well. So a lot of only thing that was pretty standard is that the Patriots didn't score points. The Jets and Raiders didn't really score a lot of points, and the Cowboys scored and the Lions scored a ton of points. So welcome back to the NFL Week 10. Enough of that. I'm sure my rambling does amazing for our audience retention. So without further ado, we're going to move on to the team everybody wants to talk about, the Carolina Panthers, who unfortunately for LB, but fortunately for LB, lost to the team that fleeced them, the Bears. Let's hear your... Now, what it'd be, I wanted to say your mile high soapbox rant, but unfortunately you played the Bears and not the Broncos. But maybe that Windy City deep dish pizza might break your fall there.
I don't know, dude. I'm coming in hot from as high up as I'm jumping off this tower from after 1-8. Start to the season, about to be 1-9 after the Cowboys dismantle us. But guess what? I'm a broken record every show. There's nothing good about this team, fellas. There's nothing good about it. And I don't mean that to be funny, even though it is, I think, funny at this point. I think Carolina fans, we could be pissed off, frustrated, fill in the blank. At what point right now is that going to do for us? Like, I'm turning a page at this point. Going forward, I'm just looking at this as a straight comedic joke because that's exactly what it's turned into. It's bad when the only good comes in the form of a special teams touchdown and your punter doing his job pretty effectively.
He's had a lot of practice.
He sure has, man. He's having... I won't say a career year because Johnny Hecker's been that guy for a while. Mm-hmm. He's had a ton of success, but he's definitely having a great year. Um, the bad, clearly, offense struggles continue. Our offense scored a total of 6 points on the night, being from 2 field goals. Our special teams outscored our offense with a punt return touchdown. It's hard to win games if you can't score touchdowns.
Yeah.
Clearly.
A little bit tough. A little bit
clearly. What's crazy to me is that if you hold another professional NFL team to 16 points, in my opinion, you should win that game 9 out of 10 times.
I agree.
16 points is nothing. Nothing. But when we're playing as what I'm going to go ahead and categorize as an historically bad offense, and I'll qualify that by saying points scored, points average per game, productivity, meaning the amount of 3 and outs on the season, plays run, etc. I think when this season's wrapped up, regular season's wrapped up, I think Carolina will set a franchise low in points scored, and I think they will have set an NFL record for number of 3 and outs in a season. So that's something I'll have to circle back to and check after the end of the season.
Yeah,
I'm writing it down.
That would be something clearly within reach thus far this season. And again, no one wants to hear me ramble on this team. I don't want to hear it. I'm just going to give you a couple of things just to kind of sum up the game, but how the season has gone.
Sure.
So the only offensive touchdown scored in the Carolina Panthers Chicago Bears Thursday night game came from Deontay Foreman, who was a former Carolina Panther last year. You take that touchdown off the board. Hey, that's a 13-9 game. Now, like I said last week against the Colts, you don't shoot yourself in the foot. It's a different ball game. Obviously, things can happen, but again, you still give yourself a chance. So who knows? The Bears' leading receiver on the night was DJ Moore. Go figure. Now, it wasn't a huge night receiving. Only 5 receptions for 58 yards, but nonetheless, the leading receiver. Again, a former Carolina Panther who, had some opportunistic catches, extending drives, etc., to help prevail the Bears over the Panthers. And then this right here, I'll conclude with this little compilation of plays from this drive that Carolina had that really sums up the total failure of the Carolina Panthers offensive operation. All right, so it started with a shanked punt from the Chicago Bears. So Carolina starts their drive on the plus 40-yard line. And what that means, for those who don't know, plus 40, minus 40, etc., that means they're on the opposite side of the 50. So they are in opponent's territory. They have 40 yards to go to the goal line. All right, so you have a short field. This was about 2 minutes to go in the third quarter in a 1-score game. Carolina was down 16-10, just for context. First down, holding. So 1st and 20 from the 50-yard line. 1st and 20, the next play is a offensive pass interference. So now we go 1st and 30 from the minus 40. So in 2 plays, we have lost 40 yards. 20 yards, excuse me. So we're on the opposite 40-yard line. Okay, so now it's 1st and 30 because of the penalties. 3-yard rush. Now we're at 2nd and 27. We hit a check down. 3rd and 17. 3rd and 17. There's a defensive offsides. We get a little bit lucky. So now we get it to 3rd and 12. On 3rd and 12, we hit a check down to get it to 4th and 6. There ended up being a flag. So we get a first down due to the flag on defense. Then we get a 1st and 10. We run the ball. To 2nd and 7. We get a flat route to Sanders. Get it for a yard. So now we get a 3rd and 6. Bryce throws a great ball over the middle that would have been for a first down. It went straight through the receiver's hands. I mean, it was right up on the chin. Perfect ball. Dropped it. And we get to 4th and 5. And Carolina settles for a 39-yard field goal. So, y'all do the math. We started on the 40-yard line. And we kicked a 39-yard field goal. We gained a whopping 12 yards on offense or something like that.
But actually went like 30 yards because of penalties.
Yes, we shot ourselves in the foot. Got it into 1st and 30. When is the last time anyone at any team has seen a 1st and 30? I couldn't tell you when the last time I saw 1st and 30. Bro, it doesn't make sense.
I've seen 2nd and 30 because of sacks, but that's about it.
Sure, exactly. But 1st and 30, I guess the silver lining in that is that they found a way to overcome that disaster and take away with points. But again, good teams in that situation would go down, score touchdown, make it a 17-16 game going into the 4th quarter. And who knows, maybe you win that game. And I know I said I'd wrap it up with that, but this has been controversial in Carolina media. Was the decision to kick a 59-yard field goal late in the game. Look, I like Eddie Pinheiro, our kicker. I think he's great. His nickname's Eddie Money because he's very accurate. But everybody who's watched, this man kick knows he didn't have the distance, let alone on a Thursday night game in less than ideal conditions in Chicago, the Windy City. I mean, he kicked the 59-yarder, and it was short by at least 4 yards.
Yikes.
It was a 4th and 10 decision. Frank has since said in the media that he wishes he would have decided otherwise and let Bryce have that opportunity. Again, you're 1-7 at that time. You have nothing to lose. You might as well show the young quarterback you have confidence in him. Keep the ball in his hands. And if nothing else, it's a good learning experience. And I think that's kind of some of the realization he has gotten to since making that call and deciding to kick that field goal. But again, there's just no chance that kick was going to get made. And it's just poor decision making, poor situational football. And it's not good, man. So there's nothing good going on in Carolina. It's depressing, but again, I've accepted it. We're going to get absolutely blown out by the Cowboys. And I would expect Cowboys to dominate about 80% of Bank of America Stadium. It'll basically be a Cowboys home game. So just kind of looking forward to getting that game over with at this point.
Yeah, I hear you. I had the thought last week when we mentioned the Cowboys-Panthers game, and part of me thinks it's a little bit of a trap game for Dallas, and it's just about that time for Dallas to do some Dallas things.
Well, to be fair, every game can be a trap game for Dallas because that's kind of how it works for Dallas.
But
yeah, they'll play good in some games and then just randomly play bad.
Yeah,
like they're kind of one of those teams that's very inconsistent.
I agree. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like when they match up amazing, and they absolutely steamroll whoever they're playing, and then if they don't match up well, it turns into usually a really frustrating day for a lot of Cowboys fans. I have a good friend of mine who's a Cowboys fan, and his frustration and his sarcasm is quite hilarious, to be honest, when things start going south for them, because it's the same story every year. I hope this is the year that is different, because I think Dak has played his butt off, and I think the offensive line has some potential Hall of Famers on it that have played well for a long time that deserve a shot at a Super Bowl, but everybody around him's got to play well. Micah Parsons got to play out of his mind and all the rest, but nobody tunes into our show to listen about us rant about the Cowboys. So maybe if we have a viewer give us ski.
Well, hey, I'll just say right quick about Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
Carolina better triple team him, or he's going to absolutely kill Bryce Young, and then there's really no hope in Carolina. Like if Bryce Young gets hurt to the point where he can't play for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Hey, there was already a planned march on Mint Street down in Charlotte for the poor play. There's like a protest.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of funny. I mean, I would.
That
never
is
go
very
and-
funny to protest your
Yeah,
football team.
I would never go and do that. I have way better things to do. And again, the owners in the NFL don't care as long as they're making their money. David Tepper has doubled his net worth apparently since buying this franchise, despite winning a total of like 18 games. So a little protest here or there. Downtown Charlotte's not going to do much. Again, I respect the effort. But my point is, if Bryce Young gets hurt, we are totally screwed. Like, we're screwed right now for this season. But the seasons going forward, we are that much more screwed because we're back to square one with way less pieces to this puzzle to figure out. We don't have DJ. We don't have CMC. We don't have we'll be back to head coaching job vacancy with most likely the GM on the way. And it'll be a total rebuild from every aspect of this organization. So watch out for that man Micah Parsons, because he is a game wrecker.
Yeah, for sure. He is. He was low key on, like, not defensive player of the year, but like MVP levels of play earlier this season. Yeah.
He was on a tear.
He's waned a little bit, but
yeah,
it only takes one offensive coordinator to put a bad tackle or guard in front of him, and then obviously then the whole world will be talking about him again.
That's what I fear after this week, because Carolina has struggled on offensive line. So I think you hit the nail on the head. He might have 18 sacks.
Could in one game.
He might sack Bryce Young every time we drop back to pass.
Jeez. We'll have to keep an eye on that for checking the receipts next week. But Hound, I know it was a quiet week because there was no game for you guys, but you all are prepping for what could be the game of the year with the Super Bowl rematch. What is Taylor Swift doing to help you guys win that game?
Well, that's going to be an interesting thing because she's out on tour internationally. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if she's going to show up for the game or not. You'd hope she would, since she's also a Eagles fan, apparently.
Oh.
But there's no indication on whether she's going to the game or not. But Travis Kelce did visit her across the sea after the Dolphins game. So, there's that. But no, we had a bye week. So, very slow week for the Chiefs. And a lot of people are probably wondering, why am I doing a good, bad, and the coaching? We didn't even play. But in all honesty, out of all the good, the bad, and the coaching, this is probably the best good, bad, and the coaching the Chiefs have had all year.
Oh.
Because the Bengals lost, the Ravens lost, the Bills lost, the Jaguars lost, and the Chargers lost all this week, and the Chiefs didn't have to play a single snap of football. The Chiefs have solidified even more into the number one seed without even having to play a game, which is amazing. The Ravens, who are the number 2 seed, slid down and now are only a half a game up in their own division. The Jaguars, while still leading their division, are now going to comfortably not be a threat for the number 1 seed. And people are wondering if they will even make the playoffs, considering how good the Texans are playing. The Bills and the Chargers are not even in the playoff picture. And you know who else isn't even in the playoff picture? The Bengals. Like, who would have guessed at the beginning of the year that the Bengals and the Bills would not be in the playoff picture? As a Chiefs fan, that's pretty exciting. So this week was good for the Chiefs, not because of anything we did, but because of how bad all of the other teams played. That could impact our season. So, anyways, I'm excited.
This reminds me of when New England was at the height of its powers. There was like everybody, we were worried about whatever Peyton Manning led team there was, We were worried about the Steelers, and sometimes we were worried about the Chargers, depending on whether or not LT was playing.
Mm-hmm.
But there were years, like obviously the years that Manning was hurt. You know, there was a couple years where Roethlisberger's teams were not very good, even though he never was poor. There was like always a cool AFC team. Like, remember when the Texans had Matt Schaub, Andre Johnson? They had the running back. I forget. I'm blanking. Arian Foster.
Yeah.
Remember him? Like that.
Yep.
They had this one season where they won like 12 games, and they were like the hot team. Like that was the cool team to like. And then, and then I think Matt Schaub ended up getting hurt, and they lost to the Raiders in the playoffs. It was just like,
was it the Raiders or the Chiefs? Because I know the Chiefs played them in the wild card round, and Brian Hoyer was their starter.
Maybe that's
There's
what it was.
no way they made the playoffs with Brian Hoyer as their normal starter.
No.
But,
yeah. Well, the Texans had a few. They had a couple. You know, when Bill O'Brien was their head coach, they had that Brock Osweiler team that made it into the playoffs, and I think they won a game.
Interesting thing about the Texans is that they've been to the playoffs 6 times since they've been around since 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And each time it's always been back-to-back playoff appearances, and then, not making the playoffs, and then back-to-back, not make playoffs back-to-back.
Interesting.
So if they make the playoffs this year,
better look
they
out.
might make it. Yeah, the season after.
Oh goodness, that's a tidbit you got to keep in mind for sure.
Yeah, and they've also never played in a conference championship, so there's that too.
No.
So
a Chiefs Houston Texans conference championship would be kind of wild.
That would be fun.
That would be fun for sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, the amount of money being made by anybody betting on anything going right for the Texans would be insane. But
yeah,
if that's all you got, Hound, then I guess it's my turn to tell you all why New England. It's so difficult for me this week because here's what's happening. Okay, what have I said all season? I've said Mac's job this season is to make him impossible to get rid of. That was his job this year. Do your job. That's been the mantra of all the Belichick teams, and just the biggest Belichickianism of all time. Mac got benched before a potential game-winning drive against a Colts team that I think had 4 wins.
Yeah, they are 5-5 right now.
And
so they were 4-5 at that time
with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, and the defense only gave up 10 points, and we lost. Here's the issue, and it's similar to what LB was saying earlier. Mac is a broken player. I don't think Mac is a bad player. I think he's been made into a bad player. He was sacked 4 or 5 times before halftime in that game. And then I think he got sacked once or twice afterwards. So we gave up at least 5 sacks. And he got antsy, which, I mean, there was a point where they showed Mac just him on the sideline, and his jersey was more green than blue and red. It's just, the dude had been beaten and bruised, and he was scared. And then the duct tape or the Band-Aid that we had at left tackle and Connor McDermott had to come out of the game. And then the worst tackle in the NFL that has played any significant amount of time this year in Vidarian Lowe came in, and guess what? It didn't get any better. what New England did with Mac Jones is a form of malpractice I have not seen since, well, that I have seen, unfortunately. And I have seen it with teams like the Jets, the Browns, the Lions, where they the Raiders did this to Derek Carr, where they take these high profile assets of quarterback, right? Whether it's somebody they paid or they drafted high or traded up to get. We used to make fun of, as New England fans, the Jets and the Dolphins and the Bills because they would get these quarterbacks high and they would run through head coaches, run through offensive coordinators. And by the time that kid had any opportunity to actually play well with the pieces around him, he was already broken. We have royally screwed up Mac Jones. And I think Sunday was an amalgamation of all the horrors that we have put Mac Jones through. Mac Jones should be a top 15 quarterback in this league. I have seen enough from Mac in his first year with a substantial offensive coordinator in Josh McDaniels and enough pieces around him for it to work. You know, a slightly above average offensive line. And he looked, I mean, he made most people say it's a fake Pro Bowl, and I understand it because there was like 4 people ahead of him and none of them could play in the Pro Bowl because they had Super Bowls or conference championships to play. But what's frustrating for me is we have done the very thing that we clowned other organizations for doing. Mac has had, in 3 years, really, he's had 4 offensive coordinators, or 5. He had Josh McDaniels his first year. He had Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, and Bill Belichick as his offensive coordinator last year. And then he's had Bill O'Brien this year. I understand that he has physical limitations. I understand that he's not somebody that is going to make a play for you like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, some of these other people do. I'm not saying Mac Jones should have been Joe Burrow, but Mac Jones could have been that kind of player. Maybe not that caliber of player, but that kind of player. Derek Carr-esque, Kirk Cousins-esque. You pick your poison on how good he potentially could have been.
Yeah.
But he has been royally screwed up. And here's the issue with that. If they have to go back to the well at quarterback in the draft, fine. If that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. What that also means is that you're not getting Brock Bowers. You're not getting Marvin Harrison Jr. You're not getting Coleman from the Florida State. You're not getting the Penn State tackle that's the best tackle in the draft. That'll probably be a top 5, top 10 pick because you got to use it on Michael Penix Jr. or Drake May or Caleb Williams. Who knows? And if you just get a new quarterback with the same cast of characters around him, is it really going to be any different? I have a hard time believing that.
In all honesty, if I was in the Patriots position, I don't know if I trust that staff to develop a rookie quarterback. I'd almost be trying to find a veteran player.
It's a thought.
For next season.
It's a thought, for sure.
Because it's like you almost need a quarterback who kind of just knows how to play and do their own thing. Because I don't know if, at this point, the staff has shown that they can really develop a young quarterback.
Right.
So, I don't know.
If you want guys' best case scenario for the New England Patriots for the rest of this season to set up well for 2024, this is what needs to happen. What needs to happen is that coaches inexplicably let Mac play out the rest of the season. And in these last 6 or 7 games, he plays. He won't play really well because he is so limited by the players around him. He'll play well considering what he has around him to make the coaches second guess getting rid of him. I would prefer that Bill Belichick stays, but if he has to go, he has to go.
Yeah.
I trust Bill O'Brien to develop a young quarterback. He's done it multiple times. He's done it. At the very least, he's made average or less than average quarterbacks look average or better than average. I mean, Brock Osweiler, give me a break. You know, Deshaun Watson never looked better than when he was in a Texans uniform. I know you clowned on Brian Hoyer, but he didn't look awful as a Houston Texan.
Oh yeah, no, he does. He's not a long-term solution, but he can definitely put a few strings of games together.
For sure. So I don't even think Bill O'Brien's the problem because there was open guys on Sunday that Mac missed. And Mac missed him because he's a broken player. Maybe Mac can use the bye week to get himself right, reset himself enough to where he can get his happy feet stopping and he can stop doing that fade away, no arm strength, whatever that was.
Yeah,
I
saw that clip.
That ended the game. But New England, if you get rid of Belichick and if you get rid of Mac Jones and have to start all over, we're going to be bad next season too. I don't know if we're going to be this bad, but we're going to be bad.
What I always find funny is they keep putting Bailey Zappi in, and he plays like almost the exact same as Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Like statistically, it's like no different.
Yeah.
And it's like that's kind of,
Yeah,
that's how it's going to be.
To say I've fallen out of love with Zappi is an understatement. Let me just put it that way, because how much do you really trust your backup quarterback when your initial 53-man roster doesn't even have one? Yeah, and we were talking about potentially at that point in time whether they were going to keep 3 quarterbacks because of Malik Cunningham.
Yeah.
But it's not happened. So that's my very sad rant on everything that's bad with the New England Patriots. Yep. I mean, I touched on Bill O'Brien a little bit in the coaching there. The other thing I will mention is it does look like we have found a bit of development on our offensive line. City So at guard and Mike Onwenu at right tackle are people movers. And I think if that continues, that would be something. Now, we would have to pay Mike Onwenu some money to stay, but they got to keep something together, and that would be a good way to start. And then look into free agency in the draft to solidify the left side. And David Andrews, you're a trooper. I freaking love you. Keep fighting. We need you. Bad. But defense is good. I have no complaints on the defense. Giving up 10 points, I don't care if it's a good offense, bad offense, and in between offense. Giving up 10 points is giving up 10 points. Congrats. Yeah. Good for them.
I mean, the Colts have actually scored a lot of points this season.
Yeah.
It's not like they're a bad offense, quote unquote.
Yeah, they've played well no matter who's been at quarterback. Their defense has given up a lot of points, except when.
Oh yeah, their defense is their defense isn't great, but if I remember right, like they're one of the only teams to score except for the Patriots game, they had always scored at least 21 points or more, and I believe that was the only team in the league to have done it up until that point.
Yeah, they were scoring a bunch, so. They've got some things going down there. They have a chance with that Anthony Richardson guy. They just need to build their defense up.
Good performance by your defense, though.
Yes. If only the offense did enough for them to win, then I could have put the New England defense on the dogs of the week, but I can't do it. I can't do it. Speaking of dogs of the week, it's about that time for him, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
I think so.
LB, do you have a dog of the week for us?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Josh Dobbs. What he's doing as a basically somewhat like it's not a free agent, but essentially what a free agent pickup looks like in terms of coming from one team to another in the middle of the season and winning back-to-back games for the Vikings and keeping that team alive is nothing short of miraculous. The guy's big brain. He went to Tennessee for aerospace engineering, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
The pastor.
And yeah, exactly. And hey, don't look now. The Vikings are 6-4. They've won. They're hot, man. They're 1, 2, 3, 4. They've won 5 in a row. They had the
playoff
Broncos
picture right now.
Exactly. They have the Broncos coming up, which I mean, despite the Broncos winning last night over the Bills, again, I think that's more of a testament to how the Bills season has gone down the tubes thus far in terms of their self-inflicted wounds. You know, I'd look for Josh Dobbs to continue to do his thing, continue to grow, and learn that system. Clearly, he can do it. Got the brains to do it, but yeah, coming off of the freaking basically streets of the Cardinals, where he was before, till up to Minnesota winning 2 in a row. That's fantastic, man. I mean, for perspective, Bryce Young as a starter, number 1 overall draft pick, has 1 win. You know, and he's been the starter since day one, with all the preparation, all the game planning, all the practice reps, game reps, everything like that with his guys. And for a guy to come off and to ball out is just awesome to see. So good for him. Happy for him. Doing something very, very difficult, making it look very easy. So Josh Dobbs gets my dog of the week nomination.
Heck yeah.
Nice.
Heck yeah. And congrats to him being, at the very least, the first back-to-back week dog of the week. So good for Josh Dobbs. He's trying to prove me wrong.
He deserves it.
He deserves it for sure. And he's trying to prove me wrong the best he can. Trying to prove me wrong the best he can. But Hound, who do we got for you?
So my dog of the week is Myles Garrett with the Browns.
There you go.
So,
defensive player,
yes. We haven't had a defensive player in a little bit on the dogs of the week, so
for
gotta
sure.
do that. So if you look at his stats line, I mean, it was a big game for them versus the Ravens, and they did allow a lot of points on defense. And his stat line is like good, not like crazy, right? He had 1.5 sacks and a tackle for a loss in addition to it. Like good numbers, but the main reason I pick him as dog of the week is mainly because I think Myles Garrett deserves some recognition for what he's been doing all season with the Browns. Because the Browns are only a half a game back from leading the AFC North. And right now they have the tiebreaker versus the Ravens. And here's an interesting thing. If you look at the schedules, okay? So the Ravens are only a half a game up because they haven't had their bye week, while the Browns have. But Ravens are 7-3, Browns are 6-3. Here are the remaining teams each of them have to play. Okay, so the Ravens have to play the Bengals, the Chargers, the Rams, the Jags, the 49ers, and the Steelers. Right. So a few easier teams, but definitely a few teams that are going to be tough. Right.
Sure.
49ers going to be really tough. Bengals, that's always going to be a tough game anyways. But Bengals, even though they lost, still a good team.
Yeah.
Chargers, they'll give you a run for your money. And Jags, who knows what they'll be then. But the Browns schedule looks even better. The Browns have to play the Steelers, the Broncos, the Rams, the Jags, the Bears, the Texans, and then the Bengals. Right? So they have a couple difficult games, but then they have some just easy games.
Right.
So there's a good shot that the Browns win this division, even though no one was even thinking they would make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And it's not because of Deshaun Watson or that offense. Nick Chubb is hurt or has, so the main reason is because of that defense, and that's led by Myles Garrett. He's had 11 sacks so far in this season, leading the league in sacks. He's on pace to get 21 sacks for the entire season, which would, one, be a personal record for Myles Garrett, but that would put him only 2 sacks away from breaking the all-time sack record. And if he did get 21 sacks, fell short, but if he keeps this pace, it'd be the most sacks any player's had since Justin Houston in 2014 and more than J.J. Watt ever had in his entire career.
Wow.
So Myles Garrett put in the work. Probably the number one reason why the Browns are in the position that they are. So
Heck yeah.
He's my dog of the week.
Heck yeah. And to me, both the Vikings and the Browns are perfect examples of teams that have constructed their teams to where one of their star players going down is not the downfall of the team. The team around it, that their star players is quality enough to keep the ship afloat, which is could not be said about the Patriots and also the Panthers and a handful of other teams. But unlike some of the other teams, New England, and some people would argue the Panthers as well, didn't really have any good players to start, so losing anybody doesn't make you that much worse because you are already so close to the floor. I don't want to hear an amen from LB, but I'm sure he's thinking it.
No, you're absolutely right. And I'll piggyback on that and just say there are certain teams in the NFL who have an identity, and there are certain teams in the NFL that do not have an identity. And that is so crucial in the longevity of the season in terms of your overall success. Like, I don't want to speak for you, Guy, but I know for a fact that Carolina does not have an identity offensively or defensively. Offensively because we're just horrible. There's no talent there to even have an identity. But defensively, it's more because of the injuries. Going into the Colts game, and then the following week into the Bears. At one point, there were 11 different defensive players on the IR. So it's very hard to have a defensive identity when you're having so much turnover and you're bringing guys in off the practice squad or moving guys around, making them play different positions. It's just you can't get anything going. And then again, you have teams with an identity like the Lions, like the Chiefs, like the Dolphins, where you know exactly what you're going to get every single game, and you still can't stop it.
That's right.
You know what I mean? It's like, hey, the Dolphins are going to throw the ball 50 times a game, and they're going to beat you with speed. Try to stop it. The Lions, we're going to play complimentary football, smash you in the mouth, impose our will, go for it on fourth down, be super aggressive, and you're still not stopping it. You know what I mean? And there's just such a difference in teams and philosophies and identities. And when you don't have an identity, there's no wonder, the Panthers are sitting at 1-8. There's nothing to fall back on when your guys get hurt. It's like, well, this is what we're going to do. Next man up mentality.
Yeah.
We don't know what to do to begin with because we don't have an identity. And when someone were to go down, and inevitably will go down, we're totally screwed.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a piece to fit in and plug into that role to furthers that identity as a team.
For sure. Yeah. And New England's defense has been kind of our identity for the last handful of years. And then what the offense was supposed to be an efficient, time-munching machine that may not score 35 points a game, but will score 25 points a game. And if we had always scored 25 points a game, we would have won a lot more games than we have. But because we haven't. So
yeah,
I almost forgot it's my turn for my dog of the week, and I'm dipping into a position group again, and I'm actually not giving it to one particular player, I'm going to give it to clutch kickers are my dogs of the week. There was an NFL record 5 game-winning field goals in Sunday's games. Then it was in the Browns game, the Texans game, the Falcons game, the Lions game, and the Commanders game. All had game-winning field goals. So, I mean, what more needs to be said? Whether in rain or shine, inside, outside, wind or not, those guys went out and they kicked with all the pressure of, a win on their shoulders. A lot of them very tiny shoulders. And went up and won games for their squads. So congratulations to kickers around the NFL, to Josh Dobbs, and to Myles Garrett for being our dogs of the week. And if you think we're tired now, wait till you get to this prediction time. So we had a bye for Kansas City, so there was no movement on Hound's record there. LB was correct in saying the Panthers would lose to the Bears, and he did say that it would be lower scoring than he initially thought, and he was correct on that as well. I thought there would be a lot more scoring in Germany, but I nonetheless did predict the Colts beat the Pats, and so nobody lost this week as far as predictions go. Once again, the Hound has the Chiefs losing to Philadelphia, Dallas beating the Panthers, and New England has a bye this upcoming week. So we'll be 0-1 against the bye. So next week for the Chiefs will be at the Raiders, the newly rejuvenated Raiders. Now they got rid of Quirky McDaniels.
Yep.
So what say you? Is the Raiders hype real?
Not by that point, no. I think it'll die back down. The Chiefs, I believe, will beat the Raiders 24-13. Pretty defense will, I think, handle the Raiders. They're not too scary of a team on offense, really. And I think our offense will do enough to win. So
heck yeah. Heck yeah. Josh Jacobs looked a lot better this week, by the way. I don't know if any of you watched any of that game, but Josh Jacobs looked more like Josh Jacobs than he's looked in a while. So look out for that. Yeah. LB, yep. You got the Panthers going into Tennessee with a very beaten and battered Tennessee Titans. Could be Will Levis's, maybe Malik Willis's. Who knows? Maybe is Malik Will Levis. Who knows?
They merged the two.
Yeah, for sure. Make them. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that.
Oh man.
LB, who wins the game?
I just want to go ahead and apologize for everyone going to watch that game. It's going to be a terrible one. It's going to be just like the Bears game, in my opinion. I would love to say Carolina wins this game. I'm just emotionally, I would love to say that, but I'm not going to pick with my heart. I'm going to pick with my brain, and I'm going to say the Titans win 16-10 in a barn burner. Absolute shootout.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a dumpster fire of a game.
Both touchdowns come from special teams.
Yeah. I think that there may be one total offensive touchdown scored that game.
Good grief.
And Carolina's going to lose. That's my prediction.
There you go. Well, part of me is a little concerned that the Giants are going to find a way to mess up our future again and end up beating us. I'm sorry, letting us beat them. They're already saying that this is like the Suck Bowl or whatever. Like this is the third instance of Super Bowl caliber, stakes involved, because the loser of this game will likely own the number 2 or number 3 overall pick next season. But I'm optimistic that the Giants, with Saquon and Danny Dimes, and if not Danny Dimes, Tyrod Taylor, will beat New England 16-13 in the Meadowlands. So once again, the Pats lose to the Giants 16-13, the Panthers lose to the Titans 16-10, and the Chiefs beat the Raiders 24-13, and that'll be that. So unless you are going to join LB on the streets petitioning for a better just everything in Carolina, or if you're going to join me on social media and complain about how the New England's run, or you could just listen to Taylor Swift and think of Hound and Matt Nagy. Whatever floats your boat. Thank you for listening, everybody. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. I have nothing else to say. Toodles.
Thank you for listening to the No Punt Intended Sportscast. Be sure to check out the Thinking Hound and to like, share, and subscribe.